Welcome everybody to Fish Tales tonight. Thank you so much for coming. I really have a lot of gratitude for everyone who's here. Tonight we're doing Fish Tales. The theme is cats and dogs. We are doing it in coordination with and as a fundraiser for Cape Ann Animal Aid. So we thank folks who've come out from Cape Ann Animal Aid tonight in support of them. Fish Tales has been a program that's been going on for about a year. We tell true stories. They're about 5 minutes long. And sometimes we have different methods of those stories being told. Sometimes they're stand-up stories, sometimes they're written. We've had someone tell a story through a poem, so we welcome all of these different types of ways to tell stories. First, we're going to hear from Henry Farini, and he's going to also tell kind of a little story. And then we're going to hear from someone from Cape Ann Animal Aid, and then we're going to get the show rolling. Again, it's a 5-minute story. We've got a lot of storytellers tonight, and we've got a great lineup for you. Thank you all for being here. Let's get going.
Thanks, Maureen. Thanks for everyone coming out. It's a great crowd here this evening. I just wanted, the Gloucester Writers Center is happy to, we've been collaborating with a lot of organizations, and we're glad to do something with Cape Ann Animal Aid. This is an interesting confluence of a writers group and a animal shelter. So there's something happening there. So in the process of coming up with this program, I came across a poem that seemed to connect a lot of dots. The Gloucester Writers Center, as many of you know, came about because of when Vincent Farini passed away. A group of people came together who wanted to save that place and dedicate it towards writing. And one person that brought together Vincent and Charles Olson was the guy who wrote this poem. His name was Robert Creeley. And I wanted to read this poem that Creeley wrote. It's called If You. And this is the way it goes. If you were going to get a pet, what kind of animal would you get? A soft-bodied dog? A hen, feathers and furs to begin again? When the sun goes down and gets dark, I saw an animal in the park. Bring it home to give it to you. I've seen animals break in two. You were looking for something soft and loyal and clean and wondrously careful. A form of otherwise vicious habit could have long ears and be called a rabbit. Dead, died, will die. Want morning, midnight. I ask you, if you were going to get a pet, what kind of animal would you get? And with that dark note there at the end, I'm going to introduce Rebecca Bayless from the Cape Ann Animal Aid, who will probably do something a little lighter than that. But I love the fact that that's a Creeley poem, and it brought those two poets together. Thank you.
All right, well, hello, and thank you so much. I just want to just echo how wonderful it is to see so many people here and coming out for such a wonderful event and a great cause. Any of the donation cans that you see out, we're going to split anything that goes in there 50-50 with the Writers Center and Cape Ann Animal Aid. So if you like anything you hear or just thinking about the animals down at the shelter, we would greatly appreciate any support. So with that, I was asked to tell a short tale, and that was very hard to kind of go back over the years and think about different animals that I could maybe share a quick tale about. And I'd like to tell you about a beagle named Lily. And I'm going to read from here, so I hope you enjoy it. So it was a February morning in 2013 when Lily the beagle walked into our shelter and into our hearts. I know that phrasing sounds kind of corny, you know, walking into our hearts, but that's just what Lily did. Literally, she walked over to you, she kind of waddled, she'd look up at you, and she had these big, brown, chocolatey, soft eyes, and you just couldn't help but completely melt, and you fell in love. So that was the first vision that I had, and it was like, wow, this dog is amazing. And then I realized that she was actually being surrendered to our shelter and into our care. And for privacy reasons, I can't really tell much more about that part of the story. But I will say that the reason we were given was, I just don't want her anymore. And while that can be difficult to understand sometimes, we never really know what anybody's going through. And we never know anybody's journey or why they can or cannot keep an animal. And all that we're there to do is really give them a safe place to bring their animal, and we're gonna make sure that animal gets everything that they need. So that's what we did. Right from that point, we made sure that Lily had everything she needed, and she loved every second of it. She was kind of overweight, and she had this like really white softening of her face that happens when dogs get older. And we gave her a bath. She loved them. She did that thing when you would scratch your chest where she would just like slowly close her eyes a little bit. And is that anybody seen that in a dog? You know, they just slowly close their eyes, and you get sleepy just watching them because you can tell how content they are. So that's what we did. We spent time with Lily, and we made sure that she was healthy, and we took her to the vet. And we discovered a couple things. She had some conjunctivitis in her eye. She had a benign growth on her leg that needed to be removed, or monitored, I should say, and possibly removed someday. And we made sure she was up to date on her vaccinations. She'd already been spayed, so she didn't need that. And then she was deemed healthy for adoption. So we decided our next step is going to be finding Lily the home that she deserves. And that can be kind of hard. If you're not familiar with the sheltering of animals, I can tell you that most people go for the puppies, for the young pups and the young kittens. And it's harder. It's much harder to find a home for a senior animal. But we accepted the challenge, and we made it our mission. We were going to find her a home where she would be treated like a member of a family and loved unconditionally. And we knew that nobody could sell themselves like Lily herself, so we made a video of her, and we put it up on our social media networks, and word started to spread. And not too long after, a wonderful woman, who again for privacy issues we'll call Mary, walked into our shelter and said, "I'm here for Lily." And we were like, all right, we will show you Lily. And we started the process, but it wasn't until we read over her adoption questionnaire and her application that we really knew this was the right home for Lily. Because we asked the question, where will this dog spend most of their time? And she wrote, "Everywhere I go, she will be with me." And that was exactly what Lily needed. And again, a side note here, we don't require our adopters to take their animals everywhere they go. But in this case, we knew it was what Lily really needed, was someone who was going to be her companion full time. So Lily and Mary were fast friends. We would see them around town. Mary brought Lily by the shelter regularly so we could say hi. And Lily, of course, would trot over to us and look back up with those big brown eyes and say hello. And we would melt. And then she'd look back at Mary, and her tail would wag even faster and like harder. And it was like she was telling us, you know, I'm happy, and I found my home, and thank you. It was amazing. It was completely amazing to see. Just a few weeks ago, Mary came by to let us know that Lily had passed. This is very, very hard for us at the shelter. But you know, every time we think about it, we just remember that Lily had an incredible last year and a half of her life, and she knew so much love and so much compassion. And thinking of the work that Cape and Animal Aid does makes me really proud to say that I was sort of a part of Lily's story. And really, Cape and Animal Aid's work wouldn't be possible without the support of our community, without donations and contributions and people spreading the word about animals that are available for adoption, and without attending events just like this one tonight. So on that note, and in Lily's memory, I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thank you for letting me share this brief tale about Lily. And if you have any questions about the shelter, I'll be around all evening, and enjoy the storytelling.
Thanks, Rebecca. Brings to mind so many animals that I've had as well. Okay, let's go, cats and dogs. And can I have a really loud meow for Sally Lewis?
Okay, I brought my tail. This is a poem I wrote for my grandson. He was 7 at the time. He's from New York City, and he had come to visit. And he lost his Pokemon. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a Nintendo game, toy. So that's what this is in regard to. To Chris, I got a little email from my grandson far away. He was sad. He lost his Pokemon. I didn't know what to say. So I picked up my pen and I started in to write. But suddenly, a schnitzel came and gave me quite a fright. You asked me what a schnitzel is. I'll tell you right away. It has big eyes. They're purple. And its fur is long and gray. It likes to sneak around your house and hide the things you need, like keys and socks and toys and pens, until you beg and plead. Now my grandson lost his Pokemon. I know the schnitzel took it. So I stopped the feline in his tracks and bravely said, now look it. You're mean to hide his Pokemon. We want it back right now. He looked at me with his purple eyes, then wrinkled up his brow. Now a schnitzel can be honest if you corner him just right. So he's on his way to Chris's house to settle up this plight. And Chris, if he comes and finds your toy, and I surely hope he does, just pat his head and smile at him and say, and ask him where it was. So there, my dear, you have it. A schnitzel's on his way. He's going to help you find your stuff, and then he's supposed to say, your grandma thinks you're special. She even sends a kiss. Her final schnitzel message is, I love you, Chris. P.S. He found it.
Thanks, Sally. See what I mean about all different kinds of stories? All right, Bill Leahy, why don't you slither on up here?
When I was 10, you could feel the tension in my house when my father was home. He was an alcoholic with a short temper, and he traveled a lot, but when he was back in the house, you could feel the tension. It was like a minefield. And it was around this time that I developed my passion. It was actually more like an obsession for snakes. And like all obsessions, it started small. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and out the back door were woods and fields, and I spent a lot of time back there. And naturally, I started collecting toads and frogs and wounded birds and kept them in aquariums in the basement. But the thing that I most was drawn to were the snakes. Initially, it was the small garter snakes with those ribbon markings down their back. And soon I was riding my Schwinn bike downtown to the pet store to get crickets to feed them, and they ate with lightning speed. They were fearless, unlike my friends that had gerbils and hamsters that were balls of nervous energy. These snakes would not back down. When confronted, they would coil and get ready to strike. And when in these trips to the pet store, I noticed that there was a big rat snake for sale. It was 3 feet long with black and yellow markings and ruby red eyes. And I was both terrified by it and thrilled by it. And so I saved up my money, lawn mowing, and brought him home and named him Rusty. And Rusty only ate live mice, so it was natural that I started to raise mice. The problem was that the reproduction rate of the mice far exceeded Rusty's appetite. I would come home from St. Mary's at the end of, and many times there would be a whole new litter of mice, and I would make these slapdash cages out of screen and wood, and half of them got out into my mom's laundry room. And my solution was to get more snakes that ate mice. That meant bigger snakes, and so I got the whatever boa constrictors there were at the pet store, and soon I started ordering from catalogs that zookeepers bought things from. And I don't know how I did this, but at one point my father picked up a crate at the Cleveland airport that was filled with reptiles and snakes in burlap bags, and he left it in our living room one morning, and it was like Christmas morning, waking up and opening these burlap bags with boa constrictors and king snakes. And naturally, my house became like a magnet for the neighborhood boys. But the thing that we loved most was going on road trips with them. And we found hat boxes in my sister's closet. My older sister had these hat boxes with the Eiffel Tower and pictures of Paris. They were octagonal, and the best thing is they had these plastic handles, so we could put a big boa constrictor in it and put some mice and ride with our stingrays with these snakes, and we could go to other people's houses and sneak them in. The mothers never knew that we were bringing these boa constrictors into their house. And there was something like subversive about letting them crawl around the shag carpet. Remember, this was the 1960s. And it was a source of power for me that I was comfortable with these creatures that most people loathed. And it was around that time that I started to stand up to my father. I'd intervene in late night fights between my mom and my dad. And I have to believe that some sense of power or emboldenment that I got in those dark nights were the result of these snakes with their legendary power and fearlessness. Thank you.
There's a wow. Next up, Cindy Szymanski, and I like to call her one of the regulars.
Hello. My favorite subject, dogs. A cause for pause. Pause for thought, of thanks for the unconditional love that is uniquely a true treasure. Our peace of mind prospers in your presence. You have pulled us into puppy love with a light lick and a tail wag, waving the flag of acceptance at the mere sight of us. You bring happiness to a new level. Never layered with ulterior motives, never just going through the motions. The proof is in the involuntary body movements of excitement elicited without constraint. No calculated cunning necessary, no good deed negated by a bad day, because you have none of those. Your needs are minimal. You only require necessities of life to exist, food and exercise and attention. Compared to the narcissistic society your guardian parent is used to succumbing to, usually not by choice. So we relish the moments that memories are made of with you, instead of the motivation of two-leggers' desire for money and material gain, their claws versus your paws. You captivate instead of capture. We are prey to self-centered people, yet self-professed putty in your paws, and to the promise of your peaceful and playful personality. Our happiness is proof that the caress of a dog's love conquers society's subliminal suggestions that life sucks, and that's it in a nutshell. We are given a reprieve from the realities of life's clutches by the solace found in the satisfied look in your soulful eyes when you look into ours. By the lip above the white-toothed smile some non-believers mistake for a snarl. By the bounce in your all-four step when we say the magic words like walk and want a treat. By the sigh of contentment as you settle in, sharing a pillow, or at least a place on the bed with your pat. And by the clearly pronounced peace in each pant you produce as we pat you, which we do for your enjoyment and for our sanity. You have saved us from despair, disappointment, and depression more times in your short life than any Homo sapiens we harbored in our hearts or our homesteads. We could never give back to you all the balance you bring to hectic days, the healing you help speed up, and the need for love you satiate. Yet you have no expectations. To you, what you receive in return doesn't matter. You aren't keeping score. You never utter any unreasonable requests, but you do entertain us with the more please look on your face when the Pavlovian crinkle of a bag or the sound of a can opening fills your ear, or the scent of something cooking on the stove or barbecue grill causes you to lift your head, gravitate closer, and drool your desire. Or when a tennis ball hypnotizes you from a dead stop stare to a relentless running machine. Or when you use your snout to lift an arm to satisfy an itch to be patted. Just simple rewards for protecting our being with every ounce of your own, keeping us safe from the unsound world we live in. You protect us tooth and nail from outside intruders, and with your sweetness and energized tale from ourselves. Our darkest hours have been lightened by your love. So now, in your honor, I chased my tale for a poem from the inspiration-induced theme, then fetched the words from within my memory and soul. I laid down my words of praise on paper. I beg to be as good as my dogs. My love for animals will play dead for no one, and I will roll over in my grave if animals continue to be abused. So I give high five to those who advocate for animal recognition and rights, and respect anyone who helps support their kindness. Special thanks to Puppy and Lady, and Rebel and Chippy, and Rue and Boone, and Penny and Shaggy, and Muffins and Mittens, and Stockins and Susie, and Tracy and Sequel, and Gunny and Wiley, and Mo and Champ, and Wet and Ebony, and all the others who have graced my presence. I am blessed because of you, and will always treasure you in my heart.
Next is the lovely Rebecca Borden.
This is a story about Kelly and Trudy and Bridie. Bridie is my sister-in-law's niece. This is the funniest dog story I've ever heard, so I just have to share it all with you. Bridie's my sister-in-law's niece, and she is everything pet-loving. This is my dog's collar, by the way. And girl after my own heart. I would go to the National Zoo. I had to feed, peanuts to the elephants, see the pandas. I had a zoo myself. I don't know what my mother was thinking in the house. Bridie was the same way. Bridie got a hedgehog for Christmas. And if you don't know anything about hedgehogs, they're African nocturnal and they hiss. So at night it's running in the cage and then it balls up during the day that really doesn't do anything, except hiss at you when you wake it up. And Bridie also in the summertime participated in turtle races, so she would save up and collect box turtles, but she would forget about them on the porch and then they would die and then they would get thrown into the Severn River and float like coconuts down out the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, I pity some of the pets that Bridie had, but Bridie loved it. Her favorite pet of all was Trudy. Trudy was a miniature dachshund, long hair, wire-coated. Basically, she was a walking Swiffer around the house because she just dusted up all the floors and followed Bridie wherever she went. And when I would go visit them, I would stay in the bunk below Bridie, and I would see them like snuggled up, and they were so cute together. But Kelly came home one day, and out of the car, the new car SUV she had bought, and she just took Trudy and tossed her out. And Trudy fumbled down onto the ground and didn't get up. And Kelly is a mother and a woman who's like a hurricane of emotions wrapped up in a tornado of drama. So it doesn't take much to set her off. She goes 0 to 60, and Trudy's down. So Kelly gets up and props up Trudy, and Trudy falls over again. And she's like, oh my God, I broke Trudy's back. Oh my God, I've killed my daughter's dog. I'm the worst mother ever. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? So she calls her husband, Brian. Brian, oh my God, you won't believe it. I put Trudy up, she falls down, I killed her, she's got a broken back, I don't know what to do. And Brian's like, Kelly, you always overreact, everything's fine, nothing's wrong with the dog, Kelly. Oh no, I'm gonna call the vet, I gotta go over to the vet. So Kelly's in the car, going through red lights, calling the vet. Oh, Trudy's coming over, I think I killed her, and my daughter's gonna think I'm the worst mother ever. And they're like, okay, Kelly, it's okay, Kelly, we're gonna take her in, we're gonna take her in special, we're gonna get a gurney ready for her, we'll meet you out in the parking lot, we're gonna get her. Okay, thank you. She's running through red lights to get there in her new SUV. So they come in and they pick up Trudy and like, Kelly, meet us in the office. We'll come see you in the office. And she's like, oh, okay, oh my God. And they come back in and they're like, Kelly, we figured it out. Really, what's wrong? And she goes, how long has her paw been in her collar?
That was a great one. Thanks, Rebecca. I would like to invite up Elizabeth Enfield. She's been to so many of our fishtails, and we're really happy to have Elizabeth tell a story here tonight. Elizabeth.
I'm just afraid of the timekeeper, so don't start till I get to the story. This takes place in the 60s. We lived up in the Bronx, and I always liked cats. And when I was little, they found me on a tennis court at one of the places we went in the country, and then later I would sneak them in the house. And this is about 1960, and I had 2 gray and white alley cats. And one was named Kiki, and I think the other one was Khrushchev because he was the the premier of Russia in the 1960s. And we moved downtown because my father lost his studio. He was an architectural designer, and he was on 53rd Street near the museum. So they decided they moved to Park Avenue, and they rented this two-story duplex condo for a couple of years. And it was really low rent, and we found out why when we moved in. The 85th Street firehouse was down the street, and every time there was a fire, it came running under the windows as it went to the fire. So then after 2 years, my father felt, well, this really didn't do as well as his studio, and he was looking for another loft to move his business to. So we moved back to the Bronx. And when we were in the Bronx, we lived on the first floor, and we had this cat, and the cat eventually went out the window, jumped down, come back in the daytime and everything. And then on Park Avenue, it just lived in the apartment. And then the day that we moved back to the Bronx, the cat disappeared. I mean, when there was time to move, the truck drivers told us they were ready to go, and I said, but I can't find Kiki. And she said, well, we have to go back to the Bronx, and these men are waiting. And I don't know why I didn't say, I'm staying here, I'm going to wait till the cat gets back tonight, I'll take the subway back uptown, but I didn't. So I went with them, and we lost the cat, and I never saw her again. And then about a year later, my father called to me, and I said, what's going on? He says, the cat's back. I said, what do you mean the cat's back? Well, when we lived in the Bronx, there was a loose board next to the window, and every time she came in, she would clack the little board to say she's there. It was like the doorbell. And then a year later, this cat came back, and it jumped on the windowsill, and it clacked the board, and came in, my father let it in, and it was back. And it was a little bit mutilated. It had like ragged ear. It had been in fights. It was bloody, and some scabs were hanging and everything. But she was alive, and we were really happy to get her back. So I was really, surprised because the distance between the Bronx and Manhattan was 13 miles. And the only way you can get out of Manhattan to get to the Bronx and Riverdale was on the Henry Hudson Bridge, the 3rd Avenue Bridge, the Harlem River Drive, or if she walked up through Park Avenue or Broadway and came over the railroad bridge in the Bronx. So it's really amazing, although I've heard bigger stories where cats have gone thousands or hundreds of miles. And it was a year to the day. It was like a good Christmas present. So that's my story about Kiki the cat.
cats and dogs. We have a new storyteller with us. I met her at Rocky Neck Nights on the Neck, and we sat and had a really great conversation about fishtails, and I'm happy that she contacted me to tell a story tonight. Welcome, Susan Frey.
October is the second anniversary year of the death of my spiritual guru, a 23-year-old feral cat, a crossbreed of tabby and Maine Coon that appeared like an apparition upon my lakeside doorstep at Lake Whalum in 1990. Following an age assessment at the vets, he thought about 18 months, and a panoply of shots, baths, surgery, and other feline humiliations, No Name joined our menagerie of 3 other rescue cats, where he quickly assumed head cat position, thanks to his size and his regal bearing. His namesake, Goldfinger, was gleaned both from his coloring and from the popular blockbuster James Bond movie of 1964. You all remember Goldfinger. He was a unique cat. He literally saved our lives at that lakeside cottage when he deliberately awakened me at 3 a.m. to the blazing fire in the adjacent bathroom. The fire was contained thanks to ceramic tiling, but with major damage to the house interior, but no structural or corporal damage to its inhabitants. Upon my retirement to Gloucester in 2003, Goldfinger, now middle-aged, and sole survivor of the menagerie, joined me to continue his spiritual mentoring in my life. Goldfinger was quite like a guru. There was something otherworldly and very profound about him. He greeted guests at the door, looked you straight in the eye. He was nonviolent, as he never moused or birded. He fasted. He impartially tolerated both feline and canine impositions. And he habitually meditated with a resolute dedication. Following his demise in 2012, several of us gathered to honor his life and were rewarded with the following thank you note. Thank you and other meowsings. What can I say that hasn't been said? A positive morning for me who is dead. The menu was perfect, the salmon sublime, the dressings and cake, well, a fabulous time. Heaven's okay, though the food could improve, but napping and playing, I get in the groove. So thank you again to sit Shiva for me. We may meet in the future through powers that be. Your belated friend, Goldfinger.
Thanks, Susan. That was great. The last time he told the story, he wowed everybody, and it was just passion, and just passion. He works with Awesome Gloucester, runs Awesome Gloucester, and also just a wonderful community member. Welcome, Jimmy T.
Sorry. So it's always a little nervous at first, but once I get going, I'm fine. Because you're right, I try to speak from the heart and from experience and from passion. So when the subject was cats and dogs, it was an obvious one for me. I've always been a dog guy. I keep short-hailed male mutts. And the one that I grew closest to, again, being, as I started to get older, a little more compassionate, even the dog would, if he was in the trash, I'd give him a little push in the button, and the alpha females would, don't leave him alone, and of course I would be submissive again. But I didn't, I had to establish for that dog's own sake, I was trying to be a little more aggressive alpha male. So it was devastating for me. Where the compassion comes in is, one time I was running out and I left the gate open, and the dog, he wanted to chase the alpha male, come running out right behind me, took the corner and ran right out in the street under a pickup truck. And the first wheel bounced on him. I watched the whole thing in horror. First wheel bounced on him, and I could see him bounce up off the ground. The second wheel went over him again. This is a mud about this big. And he just lay there with a glazed look in his face, and I was devastated. So unfortunately, it was Sunday, so there was no local vets open. So my wife ran in and made the calls, and the only place she could find was Beverly, the veterinarian. So I picked the broken dog up. He was, again, just incoherent and just with a glazed look in his eyes. I put him in the truck and I started driving to Beverly. And the dog went into, the only way I could describe it was a death howl. All the way to Beverly, he was with a glazed look in his eye. And I would have done anything to save that dog. And I got to the vet, and the vet says whenever a 15-pound dog runs up to a 2,000-pound, gets run over by a 2,000-pound truck, it's never good. Go home, I'll take care of the necessary arrangements, and I'll let you know. And I went home and cried with my wife all the way home. And here comes the good part. 2 hours later, the vet calls up and says, I don't know what went wrong. He's wagging his tail, he's sitting up, and he wants to run. Come get your dog. So I went home and I got the dog, and me and my wife took him over probably 12 of the 4,000 footers in New Hampshire. He was running around. He was a little sore for a few days, but no internal damage. He lived happily ever after. And my wife, really the alpha male, the alpha female in the house, always used to tell him his name was Pal. Pal, you're the only one. Forget the family and kids, but Pal was the only one. So thanks for listening. Thanks for, remember, we're all animals. Show some compassion and don't be angry.
Wow, another great shot of passion from Jimmy T. Thank you, Jimmy. Our last storyteller of the evening is Barbara Boudreau. She's the author of The Frenchman.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you again. I'll be back for a few last announcements, but Barbara, come on up.
Thank you very much. This is fun. I should come and do this more often, actually. Yes, please. Thanks, you guys. This fishtails thing is really a nice community thing. And I'm glad your story ended well, Jimmy, really. Oh my God. So I'm one of those weird people that happens to think, and I'm sure of this, that dogs and cats are smarter than people. They happen to know about things that really are beyond us. And it's always our ego that gets in the way. And they're emotional on a level that supersedes anything that we can really drum up in our, limited knowledge of things. I rescued a dog about 8 years ago named Lila. Some of you in this room, I'm sure, know her. She's a mini Aussie Shepherd, black and white. She's the best dog in the world. I know she is the best dog in the world. And she had been living for 2.5 years in a crate wearing a shock collar, right? So she was a little confused about life and who she should trust and who she shouldn't. And she was really kind of sensitive to a lot of things and very afraid of people. She would avert her head. She's not a friendly dog. She's just like, I don't know you, I don't know who you are. It takes a very long time to get to know her. And when I first got her, as I said, she was really confused. She pooped in the house for a year. My husband was going to throw her off the deck, and I kept saying, she's going to get it. She's going to get it. I know she's just confused. So she did get it, actually. She's not doing that anymore. And I took her with me. Oh, she used to always run up to people and whoa, 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 whoa. And then she'd stop about me to the front row away here and just bark and bark and bark and bark. She's a real barker. But this one time, this is my best Lila story ever, and I wrote it in my blog, so it's there on my website. I took Lila to Indiana to my mother's because I was moving her from her 3-bedroom house to independent living. And so the dog rode along with me. I take my dog everywhere. That story back there, I take her absolutely everywhere. And she's very, very well behaved and, you know, just acts fine in front of most people. So we had her there, and I'm moving, and it was a very hot day. It was about 95, and she's so reliable. I just let her out the house when she needs to go to the bathroom, and she was outside, and suddenly she barked at the front door. So my mother had these big plate glass windows in front of the house, and the street was about 150, 200 feet away over lawn to the street. So I was going to get her and let her inside, and I looked at her through the plate glass windows, and there was a man walking by on the street. And it just, you know, an ordinary sort of looking man. And she turned around and saw him. One look, and she headed right for him. Whoa, 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 whoa. And I'm waiting for her to stop, because that's what she normally does. She went straight for this guy. And she was snarling and, you know, that kind of thing. And I could hear her teeth snapping from the door. By that time, I had already made the door. I'm screaming at her. She's basically attacking this guy, my sweet little dog. She never bit him once. She chased him all the way down the street. And I was mortified. There were neighbors out there watching my sweet little dog basically attack this man. So I finally got her back, and she came back with that thing that dogs do, you know, walking like this, all the hair standing on end. I got her into the house, I grabbed her by the scruff of the neck, and I held her down to the floor and screamed in her face, "You bad dog, what are you doing? You're such..." She's going, "Really, Mom, it's okay, it's okay." So I didn't know what that meant. She had never done anything like that before or since. So I'm outside in the yard the next day, and I was with the neighbor, and I said, I'm waiting for a cop car to come down the street, right? And I was with this neighbor, and I said, I apologize for my dog. She goes, honey, there is no need to apologize. That guy's a registered sex offender. And so I went, oh, wow. I took the dog back inside, sat her down, apologized to her. And you know that look that they get on their face? They go. They're very knowing. They're incredibly astute. And they know lots of things about people that we will never know. Stacy at Animal Crackers, I'm sure you all know Animal Crackers, had a sign outside her window one day that said, if your dog doesn't like somebody, maybe you shouldn't either. And I will never again question her judgment. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our storytellers. If you like what you heard tonight, please come to our next Fish Tales, which is December 4th. It's a Thursday night. It will be held at the Gloucester Writers Center, which is at 126 East Main Street. We will be having kind of a Fish Tales holiday party. And if you are interested in telling a story at a Fish Tales, please send me an email, and you can get in touch with me afterwards, or you can find us on the website. Please sign up for the Gloucester Writers Center email blast, They're fabulous. They're done by Henry Farini, and they're also very beautiful, I think, very artistic and beautiful. Check out the Writers Center website, which is gloucesterwriters.org, for all of the other programs, fabulous programs that the Writers Center is doing, and also the authors that come to town, poets and authors. Are really fantastic lineup done by Annie Thomas. Back here, Annie, thank you so much for everything. Henry, thank you for Fishtails. And I'd also like to give a shout out to our host this evening, Andy Mall from Dog Bar, for hosting us this evening. Thank you, Andy. Thank you so much. And last but not least, there's donation jars on the tables and around. Please offer kindly something for the Cape Ann Animal Aid and also for the Gloucester Writers Center. Until next time, thank you all for coming tonight, and we'll see you on December 4th at the Gloucester Writers Center.